Hi there, I'm Yuri Nikolsky. In this video, let's talk about PACS. What is PACS? For anyone who's ever dealt with medical imaging, you've heard those four letters before. What do they mean? And quite honestly, you might have even heard the decoding. You probably know it stands for Picture Archiving and Communication System. Most people do, and most people, when they hear those words, they just go, oh my God, they just walk away from it. And then that is sort of the root of that confusion because people tend to think, oh, PACS just my viewer. That's not really correct. PACS has a viewer, but PACS on its own is not really a viewer. And some people say, oh, well, PACS is just my storage. That's partially correct, but also that doesn't paint the entire picture. So, what is PACS? Well, there's, of course, many different ways to figure out what it is, but the easiest one, and that's a bit of a life hack with imaging informatics altogether, is to very carefully analyze those very confusing words: picture, archiving, and communication system. Let's do just that. And upon doing that, we should be able to figure out what exactly is hidden behind those words. Start with the word picture. What do we talk about when we say picture in the context of medical imaging? Is it a painting on your wall? No. Is it a picture from your last vacation in Dominican? No. It is some kind of a medical image. Now, if you asked me that 15 years ago, I would have said it's a radiological image, but even that's no longer the case. We now have all kinds of images that we can store on PACS, not necessarily originating from radiology department. What am I talking about? Well, things like pathology slides, whole slide imaging, or even things like perhaps a dermatologist taking a picture of a rash and then uploading it to PACS. All things are possible nowadays. It's evolution of imaging informatics. So anyways, picture is just some kind of a medical image. All right, cool. Then we have the word archival. What does it mean to archive something? Simple. It just means to store, right? And so we already have some clarity here. It's a system for storing medical images. All right. And then comes the word communication. And that word just confuses everybody. And I have to say, rightfully so, because it is confusing. Who's communicating with whom? Let's digest this. The interesting part there is that there's actually two levels of communication that happen instantly or at the same time, however you want to look at it. The first one is the external communication. So PACS is a device, very important to remember that, it's a medical device. And as a result, it has to be connected to other devices so it can get the images for storage. As we discussed, it's a system for storage of images. So that means that we're going to have to connect it to what we call modalities. That would be devices that actually produce or generate medical images. That can be your CT scanners, MR scanners, X-ray machines, you name it. Anything that makes medical images and can send them over to PACS, generally speaking, will do. We should add probably in DICOM standard, but let's just skip that one for now. All right, so that's one thing. Another thing that may be connected to PACS is maybe some kind of workstations, review workstations, right? It's not enough just to send those images. We should also, make them available for the physicians to review. Again, that means that PACS is going to have to send those images to those workstations, and that means that at the very least, it's going to have some kind of connectivity to them, right? So it gets even more complex than that, but I think you get the main point about the external connectivity. What about the internal one? What is that? Well, this has everything to do with what we call the workflow domain. Now, the early versions of PACS, they were kind of dumb. They were basically just big storage, and physicians had to manually go in with their own list. They would, carry like some kind of piece of paper or whatever they had, and they would manually type in the studies that they were looking for whatever patients they were looking for, and then they would find them and display them. That, as you can imagine, is not good. It's not productive. It's not efficient. It's just kind of terrible. So, what's the better way? Well, the better way is to have a physician, say a radiologist, log into PACS, and then suddenly, boom, they have a list of studies that they have to read for today. That list is called their work list, right? And it's sort of the final result of that whole entire domain of workflow. Quite a lot of work actually goes into creation of that work list, but once everything's said and done, It just kind of works. And that makes all the difference in the world, because as we know, radiologists don't really have the privilege of going and seeing the patients, right? They just get brought the study so that they can report on them. So depending on how well that work list is constructed will have a significant impact on how efficient a radiologist is. But getting back to that communication thing, that's the internal communication. This is PACS telling the user that, hey, out of all the studies that I have, these are the ones that you have to report today. And as you can see, this brings a whole new meaning to picture, archival, and communication system. Ultimately, it's the central hub for medical imaging. It's a central hub that not only allows us to store the images, not only allows us to retrieve them, the images and studies for display, but also create intelligent communication with the actual end user. Thanks for watching. For more videos just like this, subscribe to this channel, and see you at the next video.